live tonight. We have a special stream going on. We're going to get Frazier Smith up on Skype. I'm going to give people a few minutes to connect. Um, we're going to solve everything here. Um, all right. So, give me 1 second. Okay. How's everybody doing tonight? Okay, guys. Give us just 1 more second. Just talking with Frazier, getting everything set up, and then I'm going to invite him through Skype. Okay.
Hello.
Hey, Frazier.
Can I turn? Okay, I'll turn the video on.
Okay, give me 1 second. I'm gonna share the my screen with you. That'll show you what's going on the stream.
Okay.
I don't think it's letting me do that. Oh, there we go. Okay, there we go. So you should see the stream window now.
Okay.
So, first and foremost, thank you for giving us your time to talk about your top, and congratulations on your top this weekend.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Um, as all the judging that I've done for ARG, I've been watching a few players, and you definitely catch my eye, among others. But I think that aside from that, when you think of pro Yu-Gi-Oh players, I mean, there's five names that just sit there at the top that everyone thinks of. I mean, Frazier Smith, Billy Brake, Jeff Jones, Pat Hoban, and Cordero are the people that, those are the famous people in Yu-Gi-Oh, the people who sit at the top in people's minds.
Thank you.
And I just first question is what does it feel like sitting at the top like that? Because I know you have tons of fans and followers.
I mean, when I started this game over 10 years ago now, and it's been a journey. It took me 5 years before I ever topped any major event outside of a regional. And I always say in a lot of articles, a lot of people would not stay with something for 5 years without seeing any real success. So for me to really want to become like one of the best players to ever play the game, it took a lot of dealing with losing and not doing well and realizing that it's not just luck, but I also have to like play better and build decks better and make smarter decisions, smarter meta calls. There's a lot that goes into it, and I mean, it also the environment that I'm in. I'm very lucky to have such a strong Yu-Gi-Oh environment because Philadelphia is like in an area where there's so many competitive players. We have so many good competitive players. We have Sean McCabe, Steven Silverman, Tom Mack. You have all the Jersey crew like Nick Mod, Tej Trivedi, and I mean it's just like a lot of people who really like the game in this area, and they are very competitive. So that really, really helped for me to become better. And And yeah, I mean, like, I don't like to ever brag and say things like sitting at the top, but like realistically, and the top 10 players as far as tops go, I'm in that list, and I've always wanted to be like revered as one of the best players in Yu-Gi-Oh, and it feels good to actually be that. So I'm glad that like working hard for that actually did pay off, and I became one of the best players.
No, it definitely has paid off. I mean, I can see it when I watch you play. One of the biggest matches that stands out in my eyes is when I was judging your match with Ben Leverett at Providence.
Right.
And that just, you could see the thought that went into that match alone.
Yeah.
That was probably a mentally exhausting match for both of
Oh my
you.
God. Yeah. 2 hours and 45 minutes Necros mirror match. It was extremely mentally challenging, but I there was so much going on, so many little things. Like Ben is so good. It scared me because I was like, I really want to play Ben Lever because I really feel like if I play him, like I can beat him because he's younger and he takes from Hoban, but he isn't Hoban. So I wanted to play him because I was like, if I play him, like I feel like I'll definitely beat him. And when I played him, I'm thinking like this shouldn't be that hard. But then like everything he did was so calculated and so it was so smart to the point where I was like, if I misplay at any point, like I'm just actually going to lose. Like he put me in some situations that were so awkward for me, like realizing how strong decisive armor was because I mained deck puppet playing at that event. So he
Yep.
realized how strong decisive armor was against my deck, and he summoned a decisive armor with a Gungnir back behind it, and it was just like, wow, like this is actually, it's incredibly hard to deal with something like that. Um, so I mean, he played really well, and we took our our damn time, and it was a good match. It was a good match. I mean, you sat there and you saw like everything that was going back and
Yep.
forth, and I even drew a preparation of rice that was dead, and it took me 2 turns to summon 2 Jews to set up so that I could make that Gusto Emerald, put back cards so that prep would be live, and then make a second Gusto Emerald, and then put back more cards. It was just like a crazy, crazy game that went down to the complete wire.
Yep. I definitely agree there. So let's talk a little bit about the top from this past weekend. You
Okay.
decided to play Clown Necros.
Yep.
It's a decision I personally agree with. I mean, it's a deck I've been playing right now in my locals. But what made you decide on that?
Um, so what happened? Chris LeBlanc won 2 weeks ago the 25K with the clown deck that Hoban made, and I looked at the deck. I had the deck before the tournament for that too, but I just didn't play it. I usually don't play Hoban's decks, even though I usually always have them. I just like to play whatever like I feel like playing at the time. So I ended up playing it after discussing with him the night before Toronto, and like leading up to that week, I was gonna play like a Shadal Necros deck. And then because Shadal Fusion is so strong in every matchup, and even like summoning the Water Fusion against the Mirror match is usually game because people don't really play outs to it outside of maybe Book of Moon.
Definitely.
Yeah, so like there aren't many outs to the Water Fusion. But then when he wrote the article about Clown Necros in Konami format, I realized that people would play that deck in Konami format, and that gives the deck an out to the Water Fusion because they can make rank fours really easily, and I wouldn't be able to stop people from outing my Water Fusion if I did try to play like a Necros Shadal deck. And then so I switched to the clown deck and I was playing around with that. And I said, okay, so this is basically like the same thing. Like in the mirror match, instead of summoning the water fusion and like having a floodgate from the extra deck, I can actually just kill you. And I was hoping that it wouldn't be that popular, but as it turns out, his article made it a lot more popular than I expected because I expected that people would just still not play it especially if they hadn't tested it. You feel like it would have been a bad idea to try to go into an event with a deck that you didn't really test, but just because you knew that it was like whatever. So I played that deck based off of just the fact that it made the mirror match easier and it outed floodgates without me having to main bad cards like MST. I really just don't like MST in the main deck at all. It's just one of those cards. I played it at the UDS the week before. I played 3 of it because obviously at the UDS there was only 45 people, but there was a lot of decks that were non-Necros, so I felt like it was a good call there. But at the YCS, you're going to play against. I thought I would play against a lot more Necros, but as it turns out, not many people played Necros at that event. Strangely enough.
Yeah, I saw the breakdown and I saw your round count. Let me see if I can pull it back up.
Yeah, I think I
Um,
do.
yeah, give me 1 second here. While I do pull it back up, you mentioned that you usually don't want to play the Hope Index, but you do every now and then.
Right.
I think the last time I can think of that I know of that you did was I think YCS Chicago. You told me that
Yep.
because you showed up, you weren't even gonna play, and then Hogan was
Yeah.
like, just play this, and you decided to play it.
Yeah. Like that was my like return to competitive Yu-Gi-Oh when I played Chicago because I haven't really played seriously since November 2014 was Raleigh, North Carolina, and even then I played 60 cards and I got 17th at that ARG. And so I missed top cut by one, and I was like, all right, well that's fine. Like I play 60 cards. If I didn't take it seriously, I couldn't expect to be taken seriously. So I was like,
Right.
whatever. Right. If I had top with it, it would have been cool to top with 60 cards or whatever. But whatever. So I didn't do as well as I wanted to. And then so I stopped playing Yu-Gi-Oh for a while because I just got promoted at my job anyway, and I had to really learn my like new role. So I leaned off of Yu-Gi-Oh up until Chicago came, and at Chicago, Pat was telling me about like scolding, and I was like, like I know this was like a Noble Knights kind of tech card, but I didn't know that it would do anything for the Necros deck because I really just wasn't following the whole Necros thing. Like I know Brionics were like they were like 125, and I was just like I'm not for this. Like I'm just not even gonna entertain it. So I just wasn't playing Yu-Gi-Oh. And then when I came back, I got the whole Necros deck like right away. And then he told me about scolding, and I started playing around with that. And I just realized like even if I don't know what I'm doing in the Necros members, like I might not be the best Necros player from the get go, but that combo of like Genlock scolding was so ridiculous that it took me all the way to round 11, where I lost to the winner of the YCS. He eventually won that YCS, and I only lost to him because of two really unfortunate things happening. I lost to him because one, he knew that I was playing scolding, so which is fine because it's round 11, and like you're going to know what people are playing by then. So he
Right.
knew what I was playing. He chose to go first, which is crazy because that's the way to beat that deck. Like you had to know to go first and genlock me instead. And that's exactly what he did. He went first, and I maxed him, and he genlocked me anyway. And he actually ended up winning because I only have one out to the genlock in that deck because the goal was that everyone's going to tell you to go first. That's what the problem with Necros players. They never choose to go. They never choose to go first for any reason. They always want to go second. So the fact that he chose to go first, I was like, wow, like I'm already surprised that like somebody would do that, especially in the last round. Like he's choosing to go first against my deck. I was like, well, I guess he kind of does know what I'm trying to do to him. So he did go first. I maxed him. He gave me a couple cards, but like I still wasn't able to out his genlock and come back. So he ended up winning. And both like all the games, like we played three games, and they pretty much all went like that, like the genlock back and forth, and one person just straight up losing to it. So that's literally what happened on the bubble, and I was really happy that he went on to win it. It wasn't in vain. But I realized that Hoban's deck was like so powerful that if they didn't have to draft that event, he would have won for sure on the strength of just his deck was simply better.
I can agree there. Are you happy that that they're not drafting anymore at the YCSs?
Um, I am indifferent to it. I never got to do it because I didn't go to a lot of YCS lately. Like I skipped out last year. I didn't go to the one Billy one with 60 cards. I didn't go to the one Patrick one at the end of the year. I didn't go to the one at the beginning of the year in Charleston, I think it was. So I didn't go. I wasn't traveling to play YCSs a lot last year, especially towards the end. And so I never got to really draft, and I don't really know how it was. I just know that what I hear is that it's very easy for the better player to do well, and I agree with that because if you just look at the results of every finals, it was like Hoban versus McCabe, Hoban versus what Sahabi was it or Billy
Yep.
versus Sahabi, Hoban versus Barrett, Barrett versus his friend, and his friend versus Barrett again, and then they each won one of them. They were every single time, every finals since draft started was like pretty insane. I want to say,
Yep.
and I soon realized, like everyone else, I'm sure, is that draft definitely catered more to the better players. So I felt like I'd have a higher chance of winning a YCS if it was drafted because I'm better at like old school Yu-Gi-Oh. Like that's what I grew up on. I grew up on like the simple plus ones, the simple know how to beat down, knowing how to go two for ones on my exchanges. I feel like I can play that game of Yu-Gi-Oh a little bit better than most players could right now, where you just you go plus so easily by summoning Jew and summoning Trishula and summoning Brio and bouncing cards back and all that
Yeah,
nonsense.
I 100% agree. I think that one of the things that people don't realize is that that old school Yu-Gi-Oh really did teach you a lot about resource management, and I feel like that's something that a lot of players these days are lacking. I too started playing when the game came out.
Right.
So I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, every card mattered, and to a certain degree, they still matter to this day. But it's a lot easier to just kind of dump your hand on the field without any fear of repercussions,
Right.
unless you're going up against a Frazier Smith or a Billy Break, someone who knows the importance of that card resource
Mhm.
and will be able to out resource you in the end.
Right.
So I'm gonna go ahead and pull your deck up on
Yep.
the stream real quick.
Yep.
Talk about some card choices. So here we have your deck profile.
Okay.
I just took it straight out of ARG's page, so
Yep.
thank you ARG for that. Um, but one of the things I noticed is that it is three cards different in the main deck
Right.
than Chris's, and that's the three Upstart Goblins look like they became a Trishula and two Maxi.
Right. So obviously, going to Konami format, you have to play Trishula. That's no brainer. So that one was easy. But then I was talking to Pat, and I realized this as I was playtesting the deck a little bit. The deck OTKs you so often, but the OTKs are not past, or they don't get up to 9,000 damage. So when you play one upstart, you actually can't kill your opponent if they have an open field. Usually, you can't kill them. I mean, some hands are so golly that you can still, but the generic combo is like Masquerade, Valkyrus, and Decisive Armor. That's like one of the basic combos. And it's like usually 8,900 damage, so it kind of sucks because that you're 100 off, and leaving a Necros player with 100 is enough for them to come back and beat you.
Right.
So, so I realized that as I was playtesting, like, man, this kind of sucks. Like upstart, like I give them 1,000, and I actually can't kill them. So it kind of takes away the whole point of playing the deck in a way. And since Trishula's in this format, they can actually come back. In ARG format, if I gave you 1,000, I didn't kill you, but I dropped you to I dropped you to 100. You still can't really come back too much on me because there's no card like a Trishula to blow me out. So in this format, I realized that like the 100 actually mattered that much more, the 1,000, I should say, and I switched them out for Max C's because it's kind of like Upstart anyway, and against really bad Necros players and kind of like bad players in general, Maxi is an auto win. Like I've been playing Maxi since 2011, and every time you use it on someone who's not that good at the game, they usually just give you way too many cards, and it's just like that is an auto win. Like your Maxi actually just becomes like you win the game, and sometimes it's you win the game regardless, and sometimes it's you win the game because your opponent just decided to give you the game. But like, there's situations that you can create where you create a field where they have to switch summon a bunch, and then you win the game regardless. And I love those situations that it gives you like an auto win in that regard. And then there's the situations where you just maxi an opponent, and they just look at the calculator and they say, you know what, I think I can kill you. And then you have like a hand where they didn't expect you to just survive it, and you survive. And the next turn you have so many cards, you just win.
Right.
So I love it for that reason. And it's kind of like Upstart anyway. Like you draw usually like even against the worst decks, you draw one card, and then they'll stop special summoning, and then like I said, they might keep going.
So, building off of that, I like how you touched up how Maxi, you want to use it in a position where you're kind of forcing them to push through it and give you that +1 off of it,
Right.
at the very least. I noticed Shared Ride in your side deck.
Right.
My personal opinion of Shared Ride is that it ends up being like Jar of Greed most of the time against Necros because
Yep.
there's never a time that they can stop searching that hurts them really because they can always just search for something that lets them continue searching next turn. The
Right.
real big thing is that it applies that pressure. So I'm just curious, how do you feel about Shared Ride? Clearly,
Yep.
you liked it enough to side it.
Right. So shared ride is here's the theory that went into that because there's actually a good amount of theory that goes into shared ride.